We're in Augusta, Georgia. No, we're early for that, but it's time for basketball. And the soldiers from Fort Gordon showing up in force. It's the Division II military salute game. It's Lander and Georgia Regents next.
Put it off the three-point sharpshooter. Yes! For the NCAA Division II title. Gets a layup.
Ducat half-court heave. Got it!
We welcome you to Christian Berry Fieldhouse, which today will host more than 1,000 soldiers set to watch a couple of very good teams trying to make long postseason runs. It's the Lander Bearcats and the Georgia Regents Jaguars here in Augusta. Hey folks, how are you? Jason Horowitz, glad to be alongside Maryland national champion Drew Nicholas. Glad to be with you here on this Saturday afternoon. And there's a lot of stuff going on here in Augusta, not just the soldiers, it's also senior day, it's homecoming here on campus. But Drew, the centerpiece for all of this, these are two really good basketball teams.
Yeah, without question. Georgia Regents, this is a team that's really trying to lock down that first seed in the East region of the Peach Belt Conference. And they're taking on a Lander basketball team that still has some work to do in terms of getting into the NCAA tournament. A win here at Georgia Regents would be a huge resume builder for them.
It's a Lander team that started the year 13-0. It's a Lander team that needed to find scoring after losing basically all of last year, but they found that, and Tobias Hose is the leader of that.
Well, Mr. Tobias Hose, I consider him Mr. Everything. He's their leading scorer, he's their leading rebounder, he's very good in transition, and he really likes putting the basketball on the floor and getting to the basket. But then again, he's got some help a long way. Kier Crouch, an excellent freshman point guard who's having a great season, as well as J.R. Washington, I think the best shooter on this basketball team.
Lander's trying to get back to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2007. Georgia Regents was there last year, won a game at the buzzer in the tournament as well, and they are led by a sensational sophomore point guard. Keishan Sherrill is really great.
Woo! He is really, really good. This kid is an exceptional shooter, shooting 47% from beyond the arc. And what makes him so good is he is able to find separation in order to elevate and get off his shot. Very good in transition and extremely quick.
And Keishan Sherrill is up there, tops in the conference in so many categories, and one of guys on this team that's going to try and take this team to that first spot and host the Peach Belt Conference Tournament. And Lander would be playing here again. Just a couple of weeks, but we got to get there first. It's the Bearcats, it's the Jaguars, and the tip is next.
This telecast is sponsored by the NCAA. This telecast is sponsored by the NCAA Division II President's Council. NCAA Division II, training student athletes for lifelong achievement.
Jason Horowitz, Drew Nicholas back with you here in Augusta, Georgia on what is a special day on the campus of Georgia Regents University. And with more on that, we're welcoming the third member of our team with a special group, Kat Anderson. Kat?
You want to talk about crowd presence? How about over 1,000 Fort Gordon soldiers in uniform here in the stands at Georgia Regents University? And you know what? They are not the only ones dressed for the occasion. Check out the student athletes on the court. They are clad in camo as well. That's because this is the NCAA Division II military salute game. And after the game, those camo jerseys are going to be auctioned off. The proceeds going toward a scholarship fund for military members. Just another way to honor their service. Well, it's almost time for tip-off, but these soldiers have one more thing to say. Back to you guys.
Stay there. I think she'll be safe. She's good to go. Great stuff, Kat. And again, more than 1,000 soldiers here on the campus from Fort Gordon as we take a look at the starting lineups for these two teams. And for the Lander Bearcats at 18-7, 3 of their starters were not on the roster last year or did not play, including their guys who are their largest scorers, Kier Crouch and Tobias Hose. For Georgia Regents, Devontae Thomas, Keishan Sherrill, Devin Wright Nelson, those are the main 3 guys as you look at the Jaguars.
Should be a very interesting game as we get ready to start the tip. I'm liking the uniforms out here. Not a lot of difference between them, but should be a great matchup today.
And again, as Kat mentioned, those will be auctioned off. GRU, that's Georgia Regents. As you mentioned, the color aspect, Lander has the white. So as you're watching this, Lander, the road team, but they are wearing the white. And again, to purchase those jerseys afterwards, there you see the website right on your screen, www.32auctions.com/D2 military game. So that's where you can go, and the proceeds to the Veteran Military Hardship Completion Scholarship, where students are so close to that graduation. So we're set to go here, Drew. And as you mentioned at the open, this is a huge game for Lander to try and get it on the road.
Well, for Lander, again, this is a game that they're going to need to win. But when I tell you that this is one of the toughest places to play in all of Division II basketball, Demetrius always has his team ready to play.
Regents with the ball. That's Sherrill. Count the basket. So right off the basket, right off the start, I should say. That's Jeff Burkhammer, the head coach at Lander. He's in his 6th season, and he is having his best year at Lander. 19 years overall as a head coach, 372 and 193 in his career.
Well, you mentioned at the start the great start that they had in terms of getting out to 13-0. I think that this team got derailed a little bit by some injuries. A couple of guys left the program, but overall, as we take a look at Coach Demetrius, Coach Burkhammer has done an excellent job this year in keeping this group together.
And Demetrius, the head coach, he won his 250th game here at Regents. That was on Wednesday when they knocked off Francis Marion by 26. Topped 100 points on Wednesday. This is a team that can get out and score.
Without question. Both teams primarily going to start in man-to-man. You might see a little sprinkle in a zone as well as pressure. But overall, they're going to have to keep guys in front both ways.
That's J.R. Washington, a 6'2 sophomore, right-handed floater. Gets the offensive rebound and a great look underneath. Scott Elder with a second chance opportunity.
Well, early on, we're seeing one of Lander's best strengths, which is the offensive rebound the basketball. They're 3rd in the country in offensive rebounding, something that they're going to have to continue to do all game long.
Nearly 16 offensive rebounds per game. But they do have to deal with Regents in the three-point shot because they are a good three-point shooting team. Devin Wright Nelson is off in the rebound to Tobias Hose. And you talked about Hose at the start. This is a kid who transferred in from Central Georgia Tech. They thought he could be good, but he's at nearly 17 points and 8 rebounds good.
Well, speaking of Coach Burkhammer, earlier this week, they thought he was going to be good, but nobody expected him to be as good as he's been. He's so versatile. He defends multiple positions. Just an overall a very good basketball player.
9 on the clock, it's Hose, and again an offensive rebound. So 2 trips and 2 second chance opportunities. A couple of young point guards in this game, Drew, and Kier Crouch with the ball is one of them, the freshman out of Decatur, Georgia.
When he's been good, he brings his Lander team to a different level. The problem is, like a lot of young point guards, is he's been inconsistent.
Crouch with the foul, a little over-aggressive. What are the keys for Lander here to pull the upset?
Well, number one, I think they're going to have to defend the three-point line. Georgia Regents shoots the basketball from the three-point line 41% as a team. That's extremely high. And then the second thing is, anytime you're on the road, you've got to limit turnovers. You can't shoot yourself in the foot. You've got to take care of the basketball and make sure you get shots up. As we see Devontae Thomas knock down a 3.
44% three-point shooter on the year. That's number 81 for his makes this season.
Well, I watched him in practice yesterday, Jay, and when I tell you, I think he only missed one shot. And the one shot that he did miss, he was beating himself up over, so I'm not excited to see that one go down.
And it's late in the shot clock. That's Washington. Gets it down to Crouch with an open look. Now they're working it inside early, and that's what they're going to have to do.
Well, I'm not sure that it was intended for Crouch, but somehow, some way, the ball ended up in his hands, and he's able to put it in.
These aren't the largest point guards in the country. Crouch at 6 foot, Keishan Sherrill at 5'9", both around the 160 range. Sherrill, he can knock in a three as well, but off, and the rebound to Ricardo Martin, 6'7" senior.
Lander's starting out this basketball game, playing a little bit of zone, trying to switch things up a little bit and give Georgia Regents some different looks.
Vlad Kobzaru, freshman out of Romania by way of Vermont. Pulled the rebound down. That's into the lane, and Devontae Thomas, again, a silky smooth three-point shooter, but you gotta watch him off the dribble.
Well, without question, I think he's in a very good rhythm right now. He had 19 points in his last game, as well as hitting 5 threes, so you know he's in a good rhythm right now.
It's not a good Lander shooting team, so if they're settling for jump shots, that could be a problem for this team. And an offensive foul called on Georgia Regents. Take us through the Jaguars and their keys to victory here in this ball game.
Well, I think you touched on it a little bit. I think Lander's going to have to dribble, penetrate the basketball, and Georgia Regents is going to have to defend that. And secondly, they're going to have to gang rebound. They don't have one or two guys on the post that really takes care of everything on the defensive rebounding side. So the guards are going to have to come in and help grab some rebounds.
Immediate timeout coming at the next stoppage. 8-4 early. Regents has the lead. Elder fighting for the offensive board, but Devin Wright Nelson away with it. And he shuffled the puppies. So a travel on Regents, and Lander will have the ball when we return. 8-4. Georgia Regents out early. They're on a special day. It's Division II military salute game. You see the jerseys, you're seeing the play.
At Lander University, students don't just learn. Our award-winning experiential learning program is getting students out of classrooms and into the real world, where they're pushing boundaries and putting their knowledge into action. We're a state university with a global mindset, where students explore the arts and sciences, and where graduates are prepared to make an impact in their communities and our world. That's been our mission at Lander for more than 140 years. Don't just learn, experience your education at Lander University.
The PBC is commitment.
The PBC is community.
The PBC is competition.
The PBC is character. We are the PBC.
.28 to go, opening half here in Augusta. Georgia Regents leading Lander 8-4. They played a heck of a ball game back on January 10th in South Carolina. Lander entered the day as only one of 6 unbeatens. They were 13-0, but Keishan Sherrill took it to the lane, tied the game, forced overtime, and he delivered in overtime as well. 29 points, 25 of them coming in the second half. 97-88 on January 10th. And it's a Georgia Regents team, Drew, that has now won 9 straight ball games. And as you mentioned at the outset, they win today and they win on Wednesday against USC Aiken here in this building. They're going to be the 1 seed in the Peach Belt Conference Tournament.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest reasons why they've been on this streak is Coach Demetrius talked a little bit about is they just play smart. He understands that this might not be the most talented team that he's had. He's had some really talented teams in the past that we'll get into later. But he really likes this team in terms of chemistry, passing the basketball, as well as being unselfish.
It's a Georgia Region squad back in the day that was known as Augusta State University, where Coach Demetrius took them to 3 consecutive Elite Eights, 08, 09, and 2010. You asked him yesterday, is this team as good? And he said, not talent-wise, chemistry-wise.
Yeah, not talent-wise, chemistry-wise, but again, I think it's the way that they play with each other, looking for each other on the offensive end, that separates themselves.
Tobias Hose down low, and the great look from J.R. Washington, and a little full court pressure here applied by Lander. Well, the Bearcats don't get a lot of scoring off the bench. This is a team that's primarily their starting five's got to give them the go, and 70, 75 points is where they are.
Well, they only play about 6 or 7 guys. So a lot of times their starters are on the floor for 35, 36 minutes a game. And I think that's part of the reason why sometimes they switch up their defense.
Hose with the left hand, not at 8. You talked about switching up the defense. A couple of blocks by Scott Elder led to the break.
Obviously a good transition coming out of that timeout, deciding to switch things up a little bit as we see them here back in the 2-3 zone.
Sherrill, man, he is quick off the dribble.
His best attribute actually is his ability to put the basketball on the floor and make pull-up jump shots, something that's a little bit of a lost art in the game of basketball right now. Everybody's in love with the three-point shot or getting all the way to the rim, but Charles does an amazing job from the mid-range.
Elder, he can step back and hit that, but it's his second miss here in the first half from beyond the arc. Thomas tripped up. That's Kier Crouch, and that's a problem for Jeff Burkhammer because that's the second foul on their starting point guard.
Not a good sign right here. A lot of times they need Crouch's offensive production in order for them to help score basketball points because this team really does struggle at times on the offensive end.
So Mike Lee, 6'5" senior out of Lansing, Illinois, in for Crouch. And you know, when you've got a guy who is your second leading scorer on the bench and one of your best players, yes, he is a freshman, but he's playing 30 minutes a game. How long can you keep him out here with 13.5 to go in the first half?
Well, it's a little bit different between guards and big men. If it was a big man, I would say you've got to sit him for the rest of the first half because big guys are a lot more prone for fouls. But with a guy like Crouch, possibly get him back in at the 5 or 6 minute mark, depending upon how the game goes, and roll the dice a little bit.
They do go bigger with Lee. That'll help on the defensive end. Crump for 3. Keith Crump. He's been struggling from beyond the arc, but knocks in a triple, and Regents up by 5.
And one way to get a team out of a zone is to knock down three-point shots. They continue to knock down the 3. I guarantee you see Lander switch out to man-to-man.
41% three-point shooting team. Good drive, J.R. Washington with the left hand. Ricardo Martin, excuse me, not J.R. Washington, Ricardo Martin.
This lineup on the floor right now for Georgia Regents, I think, is their best lineup because when they bring in D'Angelo Boyce, it allows Keyshawn Sherrill to move off the ball, and now all of a sudden he becomes a primary scorer as opposed to having to be a point guard on the floor.
Extra pass, and Wright Nelson knocks in the 8-foot jumper. Devin Wright Nelson got his first bucket. And you talked about Boyce coming off the bench for Georgia Regents. Last year a starter, he still leads this team in assists, but he's coming off the bench.
Well, Coach Demetrius likes him so much because he's a facilitator. He looks to get other guys involved, whereas Sherrill, even though he's a point guard, his main objective is to score the basketball. So it's a different dynamic when he's on the floor.
Knocked out of bounds. It'll stay with Lander. Well, we've got a timeout on the floor. 15-10. Regents has the lead.
Keyshawn Sherrill getting it over to Crump, coming off the bench with the spark.
RF 1 2 1 2 1 2. RF 1 2 1 2. RF.
(15-10), Georgia Regents has the lead on Lander. Pretty balanced scoring so far for the Jaguars here in the opening 8 minutes.
Yeah, well, initially it was Devontae Thomas doing an excellent job in terms of scoring the basketball, and then Keyshawn Sherrill, like he normally does, gets himself involved, as well as Devin Wright Nelson. Those three guys, as we take a look at Sherrill's numbers, which are outstanding. Like I said, with him shooting the basketball off the bounce, to shoot it 47.5% from three is really remarkable.
And again, you talked about he's better off the ball as the two guard with Boyce in the lineup. But all that means is we see a turnover here by Lander. All that means is that you have two of the top 5 players in the Peach Belt Conference for Coach Mitras that are assist to turnover in the conference. Yeah. 2 of the top 5. That means you have good ball handlers.
Well, that's always a good thing to have, especially late in basketball games, which a lot of these Division II games come down to. You like to have primary ball handlers on the floor. And Coach Mitras said it yesterday. He said, I'd always rather have 2 ball handlers than none.
I think that's probably a good philosophy. Scott Elder picked up the foul. The redshirt junior out of Perth, Australia. It's the first on Elder, and remember, for Lander and Coach Burkhammer, they are playing without Kier Crouch, their freshman point guard. Picked up 2 early fouls. That's Boyce, that's triple.
Again, like I said, if they continue to knock down shots from the three-point line, you're not going to see Lander in this zone much longer.
That's the first triple for D'Angelo Boyce since the last time they played Lander on January 10th.
Well, he's been banged up a little bit. The past couple of days he's been struggling with some injuries, but it's senior day. There was no way that he was going to miss this game, and making an imprint on this game early.
Ricardo Martin worked his way to the free throw line.
That's his first, the team's second foul.
Bumped there by Tamrick Fields, 6'6" freshman from right here in Augusta, Aquinas High School. He's off the bench, and they really like him as well for the future of this program.
Well, he's a guy that comes off the bench. He brings energy, he brings toughness, and he's somebody that when Wright Nelson isn't on the floor, he can do some of the same things that Wright Nelson a lot of times does for the majority of the game.
And so Ricardo Martin knocks in the first, and this is a kid here in his senior year that has drastically improved from the 9 minutes a game that he was getting last year as a junior.
Well, I think a big part of the reason is because last summer he decided to stay on campus. He told himself that he was going to dedicate himself to getting better, working out every day, make sure that he have a good senior campaign, and that's exactly what he's done.
Approaching the midway point of the opening half. 18-12, Jaguars have the lead. It's Kobzaru. Went to the hook, and it's knocked out of bounds. The officials confer, and it'll stay with Regents.
Really uncharacteristic. This guy loves going over his right shoulder and shooting the basketball with his left hand, even though he's right-handed, but that time decided to go over his left shoulder.
That's called scouting report. I think Gary Williams had a couple of those for you back in the day, right?
Just a couple.
Detail-oriented. Sherrill just inside the arc. Tip back out and Lander on the break. And Mike Lee will smartly pull that back out.
Well, Coach Burkhammer's philosophy is something that he writes on the board every day. Play hard, play smart, play together.
A pump, no shot, wave it off. That foul's on Sherrill. That's his first. And that's hard, too. As we talked with Coach Burkhammer earlier this week, that's hard to do when you lose so many guys. In the D2 level, that happens on a regular basis. But they lost 9 guys from last year and all but 18 points from last year's roster. That's really hard to do.
Well, it's exceptionally hard because, like you said, in D2, guys sometimes bounce around like ping pongs. You know, you don't know where one guy's going to be from year to year, and anytime where you have 8 newcomers on a roster, it's hard to build chemistry, and I think that's part of the reason why this Georgia Regents team has played so well, because they've got so much senior leadership.
J.R. Washington knocks in the triple, top of the key. And if they can get him going from beyond the arc, that would be huge. Another turnover there, and that is a problem. That has been one of the issues this season for Georgia Regents, particularly of late.
That was simple, just miscommunication. D'Angelo Boyce, being the point guard, has to understand when and where to throw the basketball inside.
A fight for it. Jump ball, and the possession arrow stays with Lander. For all the latest news, stats, polls, and more, be sure to visit NCAA.com. NCAA.com is the official online home for all 89 NCAA championships. And Georgia Regents recently home to championships, the golf championship for Division I, both 2010 and 2011. And
pretty remarkable.
Well, it is, but where we are, you would think that makes sense. We are in Augusta, just about 5 miles from Augusta National.
well, as soon as you get off the airplane, you know that you're in Masters territory. Such a rich history, and golf is a game that's very, very frustrating. I'm trying to pick it up, and it hasn't been pretty, should I say the least.
We did have dinner last night on Rays Creek.
Yes.
It was about 4 miles away from the entrance to Augusta National. A foul underneath. That's on Keith Crump. They were trying to get it in. It's the 5th foul on Georgia Regents. And so they'll inbounds again.
A lot of times in baseline situations, Georgia Regents decides to go to a 2-3 zone to ensure that nobody gets any baskets easy in the paint.
Martin swatted away. Henry McCarthy with the defensive play. Three-point shot off the mark, Devin Wright Nelson. So Jaguars started off this game pretty hot, but they have cooled off the last couple of minutes.
Well, I think it's been because Landers decide to go man-to-man. Now all of a sudden those open looks from the three-point line aren't there. They've got to continue to run their offense.
Oh, switches to the right hand. Tobias Hose has got 6, and we got a 1-point game.
That's a big-time move right there. When I look at Tobias Hose, I say to myself, you're telling me that there's no place on the Division I level that this kid couldn't be playing at? Now, I'm not saying that he could play at a major or a mid-major, but I think that there's places in which this kid is definitely a Division I talent.
6'4", maybe undersized for the position he plays. Certainly has the moves, though. 8 on the shot clock here for Regents. Under 8 to play in the opening half. Double team on Sherrill. 1. Didn't look like they got it off. They didn't wave it off, and the foul over the back. That's on Sherrill. And that's his 2nd foul. So now both starting point guards going to be on the bench with 2 fouls when we come back in a 1-point game. Along with Drew Nicholas and Kat Anderson, Jason Horowitz, back with you here on the NCAA Division II Military Salute Game. 1,000 soldiers from Fort Gordon as we take a look at the map here. These two schools, Lander and Georgia Region, separated by just about 75 miles. Lander made the trip this morning, about an hour-and-a-half drive. And Fort Gordon, just about a half-hour away here from Georgia Regents. And Drew, that's a big part of the push in the Peach Belt Conference in Division II, as Kat talked about earlier. Getting more involved with the men and women of the military and giving them opportunities and being part hand-in-hand, both sides.
Well, without question, anytime you get a chance to involve the military, I always think that it's a good thing. And such a great opportunity with this military salute game. Give the soldiers a chance to come out and watch some good college basketball.
And there'll be some celebrations at halftime. There'll be some new recruits inducted into the Army as well. All that'll be here at the half, and Kat Anderson will have all of that coming up at halftime. Off the inbound, Mike Lee launches the three. Henry McCarthy pulls away the rebound. He gives them some great minutes off the bench, about 21 minutes a game. Quick three, Devontae Thomas, and well short.
As good of a shooter as he is, he has a tendency sometimes to take ill-advised shots. He's got to understand, if he's not open past the basketball, he'll get it back. Everybody knows that he's a good shooter.
Poked away by Boyce. Great defensive play. Crump turns, shoots. And the fight for it, it'll stay with Georgia Regents. A little out of sorts. The Jaguars haven't scored in nearly 5 minutes.
Well, Boyce doing an excellent job staying in front and then using his hands to get the basketball for Georgia Regents. A lot of craftiness to this kid's game.
Angelo Boyce, 4.5 assists per game. It's second in the Peach Belt Conference. And probably carrying the rest of the way with Keishan Sherrill on the bench with 2 fouls. And another turnover. So that's becoming a little bit of a problem here for Georgia Regents. That's their 6th turnover here of the first half. Hose. No. Jork underneath. Oscar Jork with the putback off the bench. And Lander has its first lead of the ball game.
Well, you see that big body. He came in and did a great job of establishing his presence and getting that offensive rebound and putting it back in.
6'10", 230-pound freshman out of Denmark. And again, Devontae Thomas off with the three.
I guarantee you he's a little bit more than 230.
Yeah, 6'10".
He's got some bulk to him.
Well, the portion sizes are different in South Carolina than in Denmark. I've been told. Ill-advised pass again. Boyce to Thomas. Snaps a 5+ minute drought without a point, and it snaps a 9-0 Lander run.
Just careless basketball that time by Lander. Got to make sure that you do the right things to pass the basketball and be a recipient of it. I've really liked the way that D'Angelo Boyce has guarded since he's came into this basketball game. He keeps everybody in front.
Washington, no. Another offensive rebound, and it'll stay here. That's the foul on Devin Wright Nelson, but again, Georgia Regents with the defensive play turning to offense.
It's just carelessness. There's no reason. He wasn't necessarily pressured. He just thought that he could pass the basketball, and Devontae Thomas ended up being right there.
That foul was actually on Lander and Oscar Jordan.
Also checking in, number 20, Ricardo Martin.
And so it'll go the other direction. You surprised by anything you've seen so far in the first 15 minutes of this ballgame?
Well, I think Lander's done, with the exception of that last possession, they've done a good job in terms of taking care of the basketball. I think the biggest story right now is the 2 point guards on the bench with 2 fouls. So where's the scoring going to come from Lander? As you see, Vlad doing an excellent job getting the offensive rebound and putting it back in.
Other than that, no, not really.
Komzaru will go to the free throw line and take another look.
Well, you see the roll right there. As the shot went up, he understood that the basketball was probably going to come off on the other side of the rim. Made himself available. Ends up with a chance to make a three-point play.
Off on the free throw. The foul was the second on Scott Elder, so he's got 2. The starting big man, starting point guard, Kier Crouch has 2. Offensive rebound, and Ricardo Martin going to work. He's got 6 in this ball game. Tell you what, they hit the offensive glass hard, and you talked about it. 15 offensive rebounds a game, which is 3rd best in the nation on the Division II level.
Well, and from a defensive aspect, the first thing that you have to do when a shot goes up, as Wright Nelson knocks down a 3, is you've got to find somebody and put a body on it. You can't just go turn and look and try to get the basketball. This team goes at the offensive glass way too hard in order to do that.
Off the drive, Tobias Hose will go to the free throw line. They're doing a good job of orchestrating points and forcing the issue of getting inside the three-point arc and trying to manufacture some points.
Well, that's the way they play. Coach Mitras told his Georgia Regents team yesterday, listen, they've got 5 guys on their roster that have shot over 100 free throws. We've got 1. Charles the only guy on Georgia Regents, so that kind of tells you the style of basketball that they like to play. They try to force it down your throats.
Calvin Howard checks into the ballgame for the first time, a redshirt freshman out of Temple Hills, Maryland, as Keith Crump goes to the bench with his 2 fouls. And free throw is a big strength. If you're not a good shooting team, you've got to figure out the other ways. Lander shoots about 30 free throws a game, which is 6th most in Division II.
That's a positive, but on the negative side, as a team, they only shoot about 67%. When you get opportunities to go to the free throw line, you've got to make sure that you put them in.
Hose knocked in a pair. We got a 2-point ball game. And we got an offensive foul. Vlad Komzaru with the offensive foul. But Georgia Regents, who can knock down the 3 for Coach Mitras, trying to get a couple in here.
Coach Mitras not very pleased with that last play, but Devin Wright Nelson, a staple, up 2 at the break.
I'm Shantiana Keys. I'm a basketball student athlete at Georgia College in Millersville, Georgia. Honestly, it wasn't an easy decision for me. I took my visit after being persuaded by my coach. A week later, I just decided to sign my national letter of intent. I've been there for 2 years, and it's the best decision I could have made. I know that I ended up in the right place, and I've met some really awesome people and had some awesome opportunities. I changed from physical therapy and athletic training to mass communications as a sophomore. I want to pursue broadcasting. I'm Shantiana Keys here with Nate Hamilton. I guess my dream would be to be the next Oprah, so pursuing that. My coach, freshman year, recommended that I be the basketball SAC representative. And it just sounded like a lot of fun and a perfect fit for me, so I applied for it. SAC is the Student Athletic Advisory Council. We are the voice of the student athletes. Student athletes, because we play such a crucial role in it, we have to have a voice. I think when you wake up each morning and you want to get better at something, I think that's what your passion really is, to improve and be the best that you can be and feel most like yourself. This is my experience, this is my life, this is why I chose Division II. Look out, Oprah, here I come.
25-23, Georgia Regents leading Lander, and the Jaguars, who are a very good three-point shooting team, have 4 and drew by 4 different players.
Well, early in the first half, when Lander was sitting in that 2-3 zone, they found a lot of open opportunities in order for them to pass the basketball, a lot of driving kicks, as you see right here, to create those three-point opportunities. I think Lander, going forward, I think that they've got to play man-to-man. Georgia Regents has struggled. And as we see Devontae Thomas, anytime he sees zone, his eyes light up just a little bit.
Yeah, and that 1 of 4 number, it's not normal for their senior out of Maryland. This is a guy that on the year has made at least 4 threes in a game, 12 different times. That ball is knocked out of bounds and it'll stay with Lander.
Right now, he's third all-time in three-pointers made, and he wants that #1 spot. I think he's about 35 threes away, and he wants to go deep in the tournament in March, so hopefully if he can get hot, he has a chance to become the school's all-time leading three-point shooter.
And again, how many regular season games they've got today and they've got Wednesday. Yep. And at least one game in the Peach Belt Conference Tournament, as many as 3. And who knows how far this team can go in the NCAA tournament, assuming they get there. 3 to shoot. Lander's got a hoist. It's Hose. That's off, but the offensive rebound bailed out by Washington.
See, that's a bailout by Hose, because I saw him on the switch with Kabzuru, and I think that he could have just taken the basketball to the basket, either gotten fouled or created an opportunity for somebody else.
Hose has had the basketball, playing facilitator a lot with Kier Crouch on the bench and 2 fouls. Pull up, that's Washington. And a good rebound and a box out from Wright Nelson. Howard off the mark and Hose again. You called him Mr. Do It Everything. Takes it coast to coast and an offensive foul. Excellent. Maybe trying to do too much of everything.
Well, I thought it was excellent recognition by D'Angelo Boyce. He saw Hose coming down full speed, and he said, all right, I'm just going to stand there and take this one to the chest. Now, a lot of guys in college basketball aren't willing to do that. When I played, I didn't like taking charges. But D'Angelo Boyce, an excellent job of taking it.
Both teams in the bonus. That was the second foul on Hose, who stays on the floor. As is Scott Elder, their big man, who also has 2 fouls. Wright Nelson. Count the basket and the foul on Ricardo Martin. And a 3-point opportunity.
If you're Coach Berghammer, you've got to be livid, because I'm sure in the scouting report, it says, make sure Devin Wright Nelson doesn't go left. Make sure he goes right. But he's been doing it all year long, as we see his season numbers.
Wright Nelson, preseason first team All Peach Belt Conference. Knocks in the free throw and converts the 3-point play. Regents back up by 5.
Well, getting back to Lander, I think part of the reason why Hose and Elder is still on the basketball floor, if you take those 2 guys out, where's the scoring going to come from? With Kier Crouch on the bench, you need somebody who's going to be able to generate some offense, and they don't want to go into halftime with the larger deficit than they're faced right now.
Washington trying to force the issue, backed it out to Hose. Under 2 minutes to go here in the first half. Great look. Martin met at the rim. Elder lost it. Boyce. Put back by Fields. And a timeout taken by Lander.
Even though Boyce missed that layup, he was the one that created that opportunity. His aggressiveness and getting the basketball up on the glass created that offensive rebound and putback.
Now Lander had worked its way back to a 1-point lead, but now trailing by 7 with 1:41 to go here in the opening half. Coming up at the half, the Fort Gordon Military Partnership with Georgia Regents. Find out what that's all about and how these 2 entities have worked together. We'll have an interview, Kat Anderson, with Fort Gordon's Colonel Sam Anderson, no relationship, and stats and highlights of this first half coming up at the break. And again, Georgia Regents comes in winners of 9 straight games. They win today, they win Wednesday. They'll be the 1 seed in the Peach Belt Conference Tournament and the opportunity to host the entire tournament if they move along. Lander is locked into the 3 seed from the East Division and will play Columbus State in that quarterfinal matchup. But it's a team looking for a big momentum boost to try to get there.
Well, again, I talked about it a little bit in the open. This is a team that's still trying to get into the NCAA tournament. They're ranked 9th right now in the Southeast region and only the top 8 teams. So this is why this game is so important, because it would be a great road win and potentially get them into that top 8.
And of course, they'll have the opportunity to win the Peach Belt Conference Tournament, but they'll have to do it all away from home. Hose on the drive and a blocking call underneath. Tamrick Fields picks up his 2nd foul, and so once again, Tobias Hose will go to the free throw line.
Well, Hose being extra aggressive along the baseline. Excellent call that time by the referee. The defender wasn't set, and Hose had the awareness to throw a shot up at the basket to make sure he's going to the line for 2.
Tobias Hose, a 73% free throw shooter. And a junior out of Brunswick, Georgia, rolls in the first. Oscar Jort coming back in for Lander, along with Vlad Kobzaru for Georgia Regents. But you've got to like what you've seen from Tobias Hose so far here in this first half.
Well, he's pretty much done everything that I've seen on tape of him. He gets to the basket, he's active, defensive rebounds, makes plays for his teammates. Just a true staple for this Lander basketball team.
Hose has 10, to go along with 4 rebounds here in the opening half. Under a minute to go. Knocked away, no over and back. Under 10 though on the shot clock. Howard, Boyce, too strong, but the offensive rebound. And Regents can pull it back out with about a 5-second differential on the shot clock.
Good awareness by Boyce. Now they got to make sure that they don't go early. A lot of times I see this in college basketball where teams decide to, as Coach Metris desperately wants to call timeout.
Yeah,
so
he was almost
talk
a half court. Coach Metris was walking, he's like, timeout, timeout, timeout. Hey, I want a timeout. He got it with 24 seconds. Let's take a look at the Peach Belt Conference standings, and they're split up into 2 divisions. The East and the West, 14 teams here in this conference, and Georgia Regents fighting with UNC Pembroke for the top spot. Now, if Regents wins out, they have the tiebreaker with Pembroke, so they would be the 1. Lander is locked into the 3 seed out of the East, and the top 4 teams from each division make the Peach Belt Conference tournament. Montevallo is locked into that 1 spot, the school in Alabama. They're locked in there from the West, and Columbus State in the 2. Who's fighting for 3 and 4 on the other side? That's the competition.
Well, if you're Montevallo, I think that you've got to be a little bit disappointed in that you've got the best record. Wouldn't you want to be able to host the conference tournament? But as it stands, the top seed in the East will host the conference championship.
And that's new this year.
Yes.
That's new in the Peach Belt. They're trying it out. They set it up for the East to host the top remaining seed when you get to the semifinals and the finals with the automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. 3 on the clock. A lot of dribbling for Boyce, and he lost the ball. 6 here to go in the first half. J.R. Washington in the corner. It's Hose. It's good if it goes. Tobias Hose ends the first half with a triple. Now we got a 2-point game.
A coach's nightmare. You're up 5 with the ball, with the chance to at least go into halftime up 5, turn the basketball over, they come down, knock down to 3. They got the momentum coming into halftime.
Well, they went to overtime the first time they met, and we got a 2-point game here in the first half. Lander finished that half on a 5-0 run to get back within 2, and Kat Anderson is with Coach Berkhammer. Kat? All right, so having some issues there with Kat's microphone, but you're seeing the 3 there at the half for Tobias Hose. And again, wide open look.
Ironically, his first one to go down in the first half, but a big one at that. A lot of times when you're not a good shooter and you've got to shoot the basketball with the shot clock running down, a lot of times you make shots.
So he has 13 here in the first half, and it's a silky smooth jumper. And he definitely beat the shot, definitely beat the game clock. No question about that. It was close, but he definitely got it off. All right, let's try Kat Anderson one more time with Coach Berkhammer.
All right, Coach, that was a big shot there for you. You needed that in a big way. What do you need to do in the second half to keep that momentum going?
Well, we got to do a little bit better job offensively of moving the ball side to side and cutting and moving, and then defensively taking away some of their shooters. Did a good job late in the clock there of taking away their set, getting a steal, and hitting a big shot at the end of half.
Last time you guys met, you lost in overtime. What do you need to do to make sure you pull out a bigger lead?
Well, we're just going to play well because they're a good team. We're a good team. It's a hard-fought game. Our game at our place was a great game, a game we could have won. So we know the second half's going to be a dogfight. We got to come out and execute a little bit better.
Thanks so much, Coach.
And his team in some foul trouble, but they're hanging in here on the road on senior day as well as the military salute game for Division II. 30-28. Halftime when we return.
Now the oath that they're going to take today started in 1775. It was updated in 1789 once the Constitution was signed. Minor modifications were made in 1960, but the lineage goes back to the birthday of the United States Army on 14 June 1775. And this June, we'll celebrate the 240th anniversary, the 240th birthday of the United States Army. Now, as a general officer, there's no greater honor than to be able to extend the oath of enlistment to these great young men and women. 1% of the population of the United States will serve in the armed forces. So what you're going to see today are these young men and women who will take the oath of office and they will start their military career. And what I would ask you to do is pay very careful attention to the oath that they take, because it is the bedrock of our armed forces, in this case, the bedrock of the United States Army.
Don't worry about that.
Welcome back to the NCAA Division II military salute game here in the Peach Belt. Right now, we are witnessing the swearing-in ceremony for new military members. This is a natural alliance between Fort Gordon and Georgia Regents University. You know, not only because they're less than 20 miles apart, but also because some of the defining principles that we see in the military, we also see in collegiate athletics: teamwork, determination, structure, discipline, and of course what it means to wear the uniform. In uniform, people become singular. One team, one unit, one shared mission. Uniforms worn together camouflage the individual. But apart from the pack, it has the opposite effect. A uniform stands out. And when your team is the U.S. military, a uniform isn't just something you wear.
I do see myself and my other cadets carry ourselves a little differently around people. It's just the confidence.
It's why Lateef Daly, who enrolled at Georgia Regents University with absolutely no interest in a military career, ended up joining ROTC. He wanted that confidence that he saw in cadets on campus.
Before ROTC, I could not stand in front of a group of 10 people and speak. And I just didn't have the confidence. So with ROTC, they force you into that role. You have no other choice. You have a platoon, you have a squad, you have a company. I have to be able to be comfortable and confident in what I'm telling them.
I have 10 years of service that I've done a gamut of things, which includes speaking in front of large audiences, preparing to speak in front of large audiences that my peers have not experienced before.
Adrienne Camboris, a junior at Georgia Regents, says the military was never a part of her plans either. From a single-parent home in inner-city Baltimore, she says she joined the Army out of necessity.
All when I was growing up, you're going to go to college, you're going to go to college, you're going to go to college and be a doctor. But when college time came, there was no plan for me to go to college. There was no money set aside.
Army benefits would allow her to pursue her dream. She enlisted right out of high school.
Right before I got off the bus for basic, I remember just completely shaking like a leaf, just because I didn't know what was going to happen when I got off this bus.
Camboris spent the next 10.5 years serving in the Army, including a deployment to Korea and 2 deployments to Iraq.
I re-enlisted after my first deployment, and then I re-enlisted again during my second deployment.
You went from not knowing anything about the Army
to falling in love, 100%. I loved my service. I loved my time in the service. I enjoyed being a part of something bigger than myself. The hardest decision to separate, the hardest.
Why did you?
I still had that dream. I still had that dream from when I was 8 years old of being a doctor.
Her last station was Fort Gordon, a military installation with strong ties to Georgia Regents and less than 20 miles away. Like so many other veterans, the school was a natural fit for Camboris.
There are other schools in the area that don't have a veterans office or even a dedicated person for veteran interaction. So just having a full-time staff, an office, a resource center, someone that you can come and find at any point during the day it shows how important veterans are to the school.
What do you plan on doing after you graduate?
Camboris now works at the Office of Military and Veterans Services on campus, helping veterans make the transition from military to academic life.
You have your job picked for you in the Army. They tell you what job you're going to have. There's no one telling you that anymore, especially if you don't know what you want to major in. Not having any kind of structure, it can be a challenge just to go into deciding those things for yourself.
She says once veterans make the transition, the rigors of pursuing a college degree usually don't faze them.
The days of me being a student are nothing compared to the hours of being deployed. These days are nothing.
And yet to the average civilian, her typical day is truly something. Camboris finds time to work out each morning, then complete her assignments and study for exams as a double major in cell and molecular biology and forensic chemistry. This is while raising 3 children, working as a tutor and a counselor to other veterans, volunteering at church, and shadowing other doctors to figure out her specialty.
You were trying to escape.
Do you think that this mental and physical stamina comes from your military experience?
There is nothing that prepares you for life like serving in the military. You do things that you never would have imagined that you would be able to do. There's going to be times where you're exhausted, but you have a mission that has to be accomplished and it needs to get done. It's the same thing with me going to school. Given the chance and the time, I think that I can make anything happen.
And we'll have much more on today's military salute game, including an interview with Fort Gordon's garrison commander. Stay with us. That'll be right after the break for the NCAA Division II Game of the Week. Welcome back to the NCAA Division II Military Salute Game. I'm here with Colonel Sam Anderson. Welcome back to the NCAA Division II Military Salute Game. I'm here with Colonel Sam Anderson, the Garrison Commander of Fort Gordon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, hey, thanks a lot for having me. This is a great day.
First of all, walk us through today's swearing-in ceremony.
Well, the swearing-in ceremony is really an induction ceremony that formalizes the soldiers or the students, individuals that have made the decision to serve their country. And so they raise their right hand, they get inducted into the military, and then they say the Soldier's Creed, which reflects the values of the military.
Tell us about some of the other ways that Fort Gordon is partnering up with GRU.
We have a great partnership with GRU. We've done several events. We've hosted the Peach Belt Cross Country Championship on Fort Gordon. This week has been a series of events to highlight military and veterans affairs and our partnership with GRU. And this is really just a great culmination of not only this week, but a whole series of partnership ventures.
And this atmosphere is just electric. I mean, we even have the Humvees outside.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, where else can you do? You can have military vehicles play in athletics, cheering for a local team, and having a lot of soldiers in uniform just getting out having a good time.
And there's got to be something that adds to the presence in terms of just having the fort so close to campus.
Well, we really have been fortunate to have such a great relationship with GRU, and they have several programs that are designed to support military members, and we think that we have shared values. The values of selfless service are ideally suited for college campus life, and it's just a relationship that is a win-win both for the community and for the military.
Thank you so much, Colonel Sam Anderson, the Garrison Commander of Fort Gordon, and we will be right back with highlights, stats, and more. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the NCAA Division II Military Salute Game at the half. Georgia Regents leading Lander 30-28. Jason Horowitz and Drew Nicholas, glad to be back with you here in Augusta. And Drew, Georgia Regents led for all but 20 seconds of that half, but a great spurt to end that first half for the Bearcats, have them right back in this ball game.
Well, a big part of the reason is because of Tobias Hose. I thought that he was excellent so far in the first half, 13 points as well as 4 rebounds. And mostly it's just his activity level. He knows where to be at all times. He does a good job of getting out in transition. And then with plays like this, Georgia Regents has to do a better job. And then he had the dagger right there before halftime in order to make it a 2-point game. And for Georgia Regents, I thought Devontae Thomas early did an excellent job of establishing himself, knocked down that 3 right there. He's got to continue to be aggressive in the second half, but he's also got to pick his spots in terms of shooting the basketball.
And it's a team that shot well early, 6 of 10 to start the game, but Georgia Regents was 6 of 17 after that. And a big part of that was Keishan Sherrill went to the bench with 2 fouls. And what was impressive for Lander was that their freshman at 14 points a game, Kier Crouch, didn't play the last 13 minutes with 2 fouls, and they're still only down 2.
Well, I think a big part of the reason is because they haven't turned the basketball over. They've only got five turnovers, and when they've gotten to the free throw line, they're 6 of 6 from the line, which is a little uncharacteristic. They've knocked them down.
All right, so a 2-point game. Let's go and hear what Coach Metris has to say with Kat Anderson.
Coach, you guys seem to be having a hard time guarding in transition. What adjustments are you going to make in the second half?
Yeah, brutal. We got to communicate better. We're losing our people in transition, and it's a big point of emphasis. We're just not pointing and communicating. Hopefully we'll clear up the error.
Thanks so much, Coach.
And so right off the bat there, Scott Elder picked up his foul. That's the 3rd for the starting big man here for Lander. And Devin Wright Nelson, who had a very good first half, and with 8 points and 4 rebounds, goes to the line.
Once again, he went left. You cannot let him get the basketball and go to his left hand because he's so effective going there. And now potentially Coach Berghammer's deciding to keep Elder in, but he's got 3 fouls, so he's got to be careful.
When you talked about this at the beginning, Keishan Sherrill might be the leading scorer on this team and 4th most points per game in the Peach Belt. But Coach Metris told you yesterday, Devin Wright Nelson is the most important player on this team.
Well, a big part of the reason is because he gives them balance. He's somebody that can score the basketball inside. He's their vocal leader. He's somebody that a lot of guys look up to and respect. So when he talks, everybody listens.
Crouch back on the floor and right back to work.
Well, you know, coming out here early in the second half, both Crouch and Sherrill are going to be aggressive. They sat a long time in that first half, and they want to play well here in front of their friends and family.
How hard is that? How hard is that to sit for 13 minutes and then go at it?
It's tough, just because a lot of times early in the second half you try to force things a little bit because you're trying to make up for lost time. You got to let the game come to you, but Crouch, excellent job on the drive last time out.
And a reminder, if you're just joining us here, it's the NCAA Division II military salute game, and both teams wearing those camouflage jerseys. You see the website there where you can go after the game. You can even go right now, auction off those jerseys, and the proceeds will go to veteran military members who are close to finishing their degree. A 3-pointer for Regents. And back the other way, Kier Crouch. Again, right off the bench and attacking the basket right away.
Yeah, on the other end, Sherrill, I thought, did an excellent job of attacking the baseline. And then Devontae Thomas, open from the corner. You can't leave a guy like that so open. He's going to knock down that shot every time.
And that's as close as it is, and that's a turnover. And they got a 4-on-1. And that's Keith Crump with a little bit of English.
You don't get any extra points for added degree of difficulty, but Crump made that about as hard as he could in order to get that layup to go.
Coach Metris told Kat Anderson out of the locker room, we got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. And they are forcing Lander into some big-time mistakes early here in the second half. Ricardo Martin and a blocking foul, and so Martin will go to the free throw line.
There it is right there. Vlad was a little bit shy of the contact. If he would have got there, he got there in time, but he didn't make sure that his shoulders were straight. Look, he kind of turns away from the contact. You got to stand there and take the hit on the chest.
That was the hip check, which is sometimes legal, sometimes illegal in hockey. Never legal when you're 5 feet away from the basket.
Always a defensive foul.
Ricardo Martin has 7 points here in the ballgame. The senior out of Columbia, South Carolina. Make it 8. Averages about 10 points a game. And remember, last year, he was at 2 points per game, 9 minutes a game. They needed him to step up here in his senior year, and he has absolutely done it. Absolutely. To the right hand. And you said he goes to the left shoulder every time.
Well,
and they're getting back on defense.
Right now you see Georgia Regents pushing up the intensity on the defensive end, creating turnovers.
Kopsarud cleans it up. And it's the largest lead of the ball game for the Jaguars.
Coach Berghammer needs to think about taking a timeout right here. Down 9, You want to make sure that this game doesn't get out of hand, and sure enough, we've got a timeout coming.
41-32, and right out of the locker room, the Jaguars have opened up a 9-point lead.
Kabzoom early and often here in this second half.
The Jaguars have opened up their largest lead of the ball game here on Military Appreciation Day, and this is what happened here at halftime.
I'm an American soldier. I'm a warrior and a member of the team. I serve the people of the United States and live beyond my values.
The Soldiers' Creed by more than 1,000 that are here from Fort Gordon. They also inducted some new recruits as well to the Army, and it was a spot where everybody in this building, Drew, stood at attention and just listened all the way to that last line, which is, I am a soldier.
It's unbelievable when you think about the service and the commitment that these young men and women are about to embark on in being in the military. Quite an experience.
Cat Anderson told you at halftime the special relationship between Georgia Regents, Fort Gordon, and the military. And a travel there by Keishan Sherrill. So this was a 2-point ball game at the half. Dip Mitra's team has opened up on an 11-4 break. How'd they do it?
Points off of turnovers. I think that they've done a good job in terms of speeding up the tempo a little bit. Lander hasn't come out ready to play. I thought that they would, especially with the momentum they had coming in to the second half. And I thought that was about to be a highlight. I thought Tobias Hose was going to go up and put that one down.
He didn't. Instead, didn't go up with the two hands. And he also has to be careful because he's got 3 fouls. And Keith Crump is going. The sophomore knocks in a triple. Foot was on the line. They called it just a 2. Great entry pass, high-low, down to Scott Elder, who lays it in. Well, they work that offense to perfection.
Anytime you're playing against the zone, you want to get the basketball into the high post, because when it gets there, the defenses collapse, and then all of a sudden you can play from there.
Kabzoom working on Elder, who has 3 fouls. Sherrill thought he had a clean swipe. Instead, it's a foul. That's on Devin Wright Nelson. But here's the offensive play here, the last possession for Lander.
Well, anytime you get the basketball into this area right here, a lot of times the defense collapse. So as the ball gets passed around and the basketball gets to Martin, you see it, and then all of a sudden, Elder doing a great job of just catching the basketball and laying it in.
Use a few more possessions like that here to get back into this ball game. Hose had 13 in the first half. Yet to get on the board here in the second half. Wright Nelson muscles it up and in.
Left hand finish, right shoulder turn. Every time he catches the ball on that right block, he wants to turn to the middle.
He's in double figures. He's got 12. Devontae Thomas also in double figures for Georgia Regents with 10.
And this is what distinguishes the good teams from the great ones. Sometimes you can sense when you have a chance to put a team away.
And Keyshawn Sherrill up above the rim. And an offensive foul.
Standing at only 5'9". When I tell you the little man can get up, he can get up.
They asked him if he could dunk. Drew, I'd say this is a resounding yes.
I believe so. Keyshawn Sherrill leading it into the break.
Every second your business is without power, lost revenue is adding up. So Agreco is ready with the largest inventory of rental power, heating, and cooling solutions. Driven by the local support of our 50 nationwide service centers. All to keep your business running. That's why we're trusted to power leading industries and events. For rental solutions, contact Agreco, the official supplier of power for the NCAA.
I love learning.
I believe in service. I am full of passion.
I embody sportsmanship.
I trust in my resourcefulness.
I like balance.
That's why I chose.
I chose Division II.
Whether you follow one college team or all of them, it's never been easier to get the content you want in one place. NCAA.com cuts through the clutter so you're in control. School pages connect you with your favorite team so you can access highlights and features you won't find anywhere else. And NCAA.com is Championship Central with unparalleled access. Across all divisions. Whether at home or on the go, NCAA.com is the home of college sports.
47-34, Georgia Regents has opened up its largest lead, thanks in part to Lander turnovers. Be sure to tune in Sunday, March 1st at noon Eastern to catch our final NCAA Division II Game of the Week right here on CBS Sports Network. We turn it back over to the ladies when the Red Hawks of Roberts Wesleyan challenge the LIU Post Pioneers in an East Coast Conference matchup. You can also catch each NCAA Division II basketball Game of the Week stream live on NCAA.com and the NCAA Sports mobile app. So that next Sunday, here today on this Saturday. Well, this gym just got up a little bit, and the woman behind us made sure to tell us, Drew, that that was just the second dunk of the year for Keyshawn Sherrill, and I believe the word she said was, he has hippity hop. He has hippity hop.
First time I've heard hippity hop, but Sherrill, I can tell by the way that he shoots his jumper, has a lot of spring and bounce in his step, but I didn't know at 5'9" that he could put it down like that.
Spud Webb after the dunk contest last week. Lander's got to get going to get back into this game, and Tobias Hose coast to coast.
Well, he's going to have to be the guy. If Lander wants to get back into this basketball game, he's going to have to continue to get plays like that.
Scott Elder over-aggressive, and that's 4 fouls on the 6'7" redshirt junior.
And that's a foul right there that's just simply unnecessary. He didn't have to gamble. You know you have 3 fouls. Just make sure you do a better job of staying in front and don't reach.
And so now you lose some experience. You gain some size with freshman Oscar Jort into the ball game. You get him back in 6'10". He gave him a couple of good minutes in the first half, but you certainly lose the experience factor. Sherrill short on the 3 and the fight for the rebound, and Landers got it.
With Sherrill on Tobias Hose right now, I would try to get the basketball inside to Hose on the post. He's 6'4", Sherrill's 5'9". Why not throw the basketball in there?
Hose back with the ball and 6 to shoot. Sherrill gets the deflection, 5 on the shot clock.
Got to look for something quick here, possibly for J.R. Washington coming off a screen.
Hose again late in the shot clock. Again takes a 3. This time not as lucky as the first half, and Jort gets the foul and another. Just a silly foul here as they're starting to rack up a little bit. That's 5 fouls on Lander here in the second half.
Well, when Tobias Hose caught the ball in the corner, at first he didn't recognize that there was only 4 seconds left on the clock. And then all of a sudden he had to shoot up a 3. Again, you've got to be aware of time and score.
Devontae Thomas back on the bench. D'Angelo Boyce with the ball and on the floor. They've got Hose on Sherrill. Remember, Hose has 3 fouls here as well. McCarthy with the soft touch. Henry McCarthy, 6'9" senior out of Norway.
Took his time, stayed composed. Excellent job that time by McCarthy.
Crouch short on the jumper. And a lot of empty possessions here in the first 7 minutes for Lander. Sherrill. Now, Keisha Sherrill might have had foul trouble in the first half. He's starting to take over the second half.
Well, I told you that he was going to be aggressive coming out here at the start of the second half. And that right there is called a blow-by. He's completely left the Lander defender in his tracks.
Too much body from Keith Crump. That's his 3rd, but nobody keeps up with the 5'9" guard.
When you're so small and so athletic, it's hard to stay in front. And because he can shoot the basketball, that little hesitation at the top of the key, you thought he was going to shoot and he goes right by you.
Just impact. I mean, you can tell how good he is for this team. The explosiveness, the intensity, all of that has picked up now that he's back on the floor.
I've done a bunch of Division I games this year, and just like I said about Tobias Hose, Keyshawn Sherrill could very well be at a Division I program, either starting or coming off the bench and being a spark plug for somebody.
Hose didn't take the 3, gets the tip and gets the dunk.
Tobias Hose.
If I'm Lander right now, you might want to start thinking about pressing, trying to speed the basketball game up, trying to get some easy turnovers like Georgia Regents got at the beginning of the second half.
Kier Crouch was out of bounds when he knocked that ball away, so it'll stay with the Jaguars. And they really like this freshman, forced into more playing time this year because senior Alan Hardy left the team in December for personal reasons. He had started the first 8 games of the year. And Kier Crouch hits the floor hard, but helped up by his teammates, but he picks up the foul. His team down by 13 here in Augusta.
GRU Athletics is proud to welcome back Janet King as the corporate partner of Jaguars for completing the
Welcome back to the NCAA Division II Military Salute Game. We just spoke with Colonel Sam Anderson at the half about this relationship between Fort Gordon and Georgia Regents University. And now we want to hear about the impact that this has had on the school's end. So we're here with Athletic Director Clint Bryant. What has this partnership meant to Georgia Regents?
Well, we've been doing this for about 25 years now, but it's a great partnership for not only for our university but for the community, and it's great working with somebody like Sam and what he does in bringing this all together. So we're just excited about it, and we hopefully will continue to another 25 years.
Thanks so much. Guys, back to you.
All right, Kat, thank you very much. And it is an emphasis on the Division II level, is to have those relationships with the military. And off the inbounds, that's not the play that I don't think Dimitris would be happy about. But again, I mean, and you're seeing the uniforms. If you're just joining us, it is, as Kat mentioned, the Division II Military Salute Game. They're hosting Military Appreciation Day here on campus. Soldiers from Fort Gordon are here. These uniforms are going to be auctioned off, and the benefit to soldiers who are so close to graduating, but their funds have run out. And they've embraced that aspect of it. And the players are really enjoying it. They were telling us before the game, this is a big deal for them too.
Well, without question, a lot of times at this level, guys don't get a chance to play in front of national television. And so many of these guys, speaking to both coaches before the game, want to make sure that the players didn't get too riled up about the environment and all the emotion that comes into this basketball game.
McCarthy goes to work on the freshman.
My goodness. I didn't know he had all of that to his game. That's the second time now where he's caught the ball in the post. He stayed composed and made excellent moves.
Henry McCarthy got it in the post and knew from the moment that he was going to the rim.
I mean, that's just a simple drop step. 2 dribbles to the middle, get your guy leaning one way, turn back to the baseline.
4 points, 4 rebounds for McCarthy off the bench. And again, this was a 2-point game at the half. But this is where it's been hovering for about the last 5-6 minutes. Tobias Hose has 19 for Georgia Regents, the rest of the roster with 21.
One thing that's been impressive to me so far for Georgia Regents is they always talk defensively. I can hear them from here calling out the plays. I just heard Cheryl call flex. And they make sure that they're in tune, knowing where these guys are and who's going to help.
And again, late in the shot clock and the foul going against McCarthy. It's the 4th on Georgia Regents. And that's something, you know, we talked about earlier in this ball game. Is that Lander gets to the free throw line more than almost anybody in the country, and certainly more than everybody in the Peach Belt Conference. 30 free throw attempts a game. They've only taken 8 here in this ball game.
Well, a good part of that is because they've taken 11 threes, and I think that's a little uncharacteristic for them. That's a little high. And with Georgia Regents playing this zone, they've still got to find ways to attack the gaps and penetrate the basketball.
Another 3. That one rolls home.
Just as I say that, they knocked down a 3.
Well, Mike Lee was listening. Had the nice Drew Nicholas stroke.
I wouldn't go that far. Shot looked a lot better than mine.
Cheryl trying to answer. And it's quick shots like that that might help Lander get back in. Washington. And the foul on J.R. Washington. But again, Mike Lee coming off the bench and big time shot here.
Well, against zone, you've got to make sure that you stay in the gaps. And that time, Lee did an excellent job of being in between that front and back line. He caught the basketball ready to shoot it.
So with 9:55 to go and a 10-point lead, the Jaguars are going to be shooting free throws the rest of the way. And you see the foul trouble here on what is it, a team that is not deep. Starting center, starting forwards, starting point guards, all in foul trouble. Or point guard, I should say, in Kier Crouch with 4.
Well, this is do or die time now for Lander. There's only 10 minutes left. They're down 10. You've got to keep your key guys on the floor. You could possibly steal a minute or 2, but coming down the stretch, you've got to depend on your key guys.
McCarthy again trying to fight for the offensive board.
Right there's a situation where you have a 3-on-1 fast break, and I understand Devontae Thomas is an excellent shooter, but 3-on-1 situations, you've got to get a layup. You've got to figure out how to pass the basketball, make sure you get a shot closer to the rim.
And this is the lineup, though, for Lander. Remember, they were down by 8 in the first half. They got back to within 2 right before the break. And they did it without Kier Crouch, who's on the bench with his 4 fouls. Now, that's not going to help. But in general, this is the offensive part that's got Lander back into this game.
Well, because they're bigger. And I think when they shoot the basketball, a lot of times they've got 3 and 4 guys attacking the offensive glass, and they can get some second chance points that way. But Mike Lee's got to take care of the basketball.
D'Angelo Boyce wide open to the bucket.
He didn't look banged up on that possession.
Tobias Hose quickly down the floor with the answer. And that's what they're going to have to do, get back quickly before Georgia Regents is set.
Well, the natural tendency after you score is you kind of jog back, kind of look at your man, and then a guy like Tobias Hose just takes the basketball 94 feet and gets all the way to the rim.
Hose has 19 points in this ball game. And short on the first. Connect with D2 Athletics on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Join the conversation as national champions are crowned in 25 D2 sports. Good on the second. It's the 8th time this season that Tobias Hose has topped 20 points. Sergio Smith into the ball game for the first time for Lander. And again, this is not a very deep team, although Sergio Smith plays 15 minutes a game.
Well, putting Sergio Smith into this game, it makes them a little bit more athletic, and I think that's the reason why you're seeing Lander now starting to pick up the pressure.
Two-man game with Wright Nelson. Gets his own miss. Puts it up and in.
Just a workhorse on the offensive end. He's not the tallest guy on the court. Only about 6'5", maybe 6'6". But he's physical, and he knows what to do when he gets offensive rebounds.
And he's got 14 points and out of bounds. And again, Mike Lee slipped on the floor and lost the ball. And just like that, Kier Crouch coming back into the game for Lander with his 4 fouls. So Jeff Burkhammer saying, hey, this is the time. We don't have any more time to go here.
I like the decision. 8 minutes left, you're down 13. One of your star players needs to be on the basketball floor.
Boyce leaves it for Wright Nelson and Crouch from behind. And that's dangerous with 4 fouls.
Very risky, but he caught it clean, so there's no foul called on the play.
Under 8 to go in the second half, and he's bumped on the pass. 57-44 with 7:46 to go. Georgia Regents trying to close out a Peach Belt Conference regular season title.
Georgia Regents Health System and its combined staff of physicians and athletic trainers for its continued support.
Jason Horwitz, Drew Nicholas, Cat Anderson back with you in Augusta. 57-44, Georgia Regents leading Lander, who is normally a very balanced scoring team, but Drew, it's today been all the Tobias Hose show.
Well, Hose has just been relentless at attacking the rim. He finds ways to score. He's not the best outside shooter, but he really thrives alongside the baseline like you see right there. And like you said, Tobias needs somebody else to step up. He's got 20, the team's only got 44. I understand Kier Crouch has been on the bench for quite some time with foul trouble, but they need some secondary scoring if they're going to get back in this basketball game.
And it's a Lander team that averages better than 76 points per game. 4 guys scoring double figures per game, but that has not been the case today.
Well, the one guy who's been pretty silent is the guy with the basketball right there, J.R. Washington. He's only got 3 points. He hasn't been able to find himself open to knock down some shots.
And that guy, Kier Crouch, has been on the bench for foul trouble pretty much all day. Fearless into the lane and earns a trip to the free throw line.
So quick. His ability is, he's one of those guys that has the opportunity to get into the paint whenever he wants. Quick little blow by right by D'Angelo Boyce that time. Able to draw the foul.
Crouch, a 68% free throw shooter on the season.
And that's an area that he's got to improve. Being a point guard, as much as he gets into the lane, when you get to the foul line, you've got to convert those free throws. I'd like to see him up over 75%. And Lander as a basketball team, they don't have one person over 75% that shoots the basketball from the free throw line. Not one.
Yeah. Which is, again, as you talked about, when you get there as often as they do, 30 times a game, you got to convert.
Yeah.
Devontae Thomas on the other end. Getting the foul on Sergio Smith. And as good of a three-point shooter as Devontae Thomas is, he's also just a 63% free throw shooter.
That's very strange, because when you shoot it the way he does, free throws are only a matter of confidence. Going up there, taking your time, taking a deep breath, and knocking them down. There's no reason why he should hover around the 60% mark.
11 points for Devontae Thomas. Normally a lights-out three-point shooter. Just 2 of 6 from beyond the arc here in this ballgame. Go down a pair. And that lead back up to 14 yet again.
If you're Georgia Regents right now on the offensive end, you've got to start to think about really taking your time a little bit. Of course you want to be aggressive and you want to take things when they're there, but make sure you use some of that shot clock. Use 20, 25 seconds and kind of try to drain this clock out a little bit while you're nursing a 14-point lead.
Lander trying to penetrate the zone and a big-time three. You said J.R. Washington's got to step up, and he just knocked one in. And again, they keep Tobias Hose on Keyshawn Sherrill on defense. Thomas. And another trip to the free throw line.
Well, Lander the last time down against the 2-3 zone. I'm not exactly sure why Georgia Regents decide to stay in the 2-3 zone with them up. Good ball movement, the knockdown three by Washington.
This Georgia Regents team is one that made the NCAA tournament last year, played in the 4-5 matchup, and beat Anderson, which is out of South Carolina. And out of the SAC, Dimitris' team lost in the second round, but he has been to the tournament multiple times and now 11 seasons here. 250 wins in his 11 years here at Georgia Regents. It's about 22 wins per season.
An outstanding job, and when you got guys like Sherrill coming back to the program for the next couple of years, you better believe that this team is going to make the NCAA tournament for years to come.
And again, making Lander work deep into the shot clock. Knowing that the Bearcats are not a good three-point shooting team, but Kier Crouch gets in between. And we'll stop it here. Got to let him up.
So Scott Elder now back in with 4 fouls. Take a look again, Keir Crouch with the quickness.
Well, against the zone, you got to attack the gaps, and Crouch's biggest attribute is his quickness. He can get into the paint at any time and was able to finish.
Right at Elder. Well, Crouch was on it with 4 fouls. Elder was in the paint with 4 fouls, and Boyce took advantage.
That's senior leadership right there. Understanding that Crouch has 4. He does not want to pick up his 5th foul, so D'Angelo Boyce can be a little bit more aggressive.
Crouch for 3. Great rebound. It's Ricardo Martin underneath. But Mr. Everything, Devin Wright Nelson, the MVP of this basketball team, didn't move. And on the offensive side, picks up the charge.
I'm sure Scott Elder was a little concerned when he went to go take that charge, because I know he didn't want to pick up his 5th. He just came into the basketball game, but doing a good job of being in position for the charge.
Mitras was just saying that Scott Elder didn't have 2 feet on the floor, let alone being set. Either way, it's an offensive foul. Crouch hammered again. So that seems to be the offensive plan right now. Get it to him and let him go to work.
Well, Crouch understands the moment.
And again, here are the regional rankings for the Southeast region, which just came out this week. This is the first set of rankings that came out this week. And Georgia Region sitting in the 5th spot with Lander at the 9th spot. And again, on the Division II level, 8 teams with 8 regions make the NCAA tournament. And they work their way to the Elite 8. So Lander's got work to do. Georgia Region's, at this point, probably feeling pretty comfortable, even if they don't win the Peach Belt Conference tournament, that they'll get an at-large bid.
Yeah, I think so. I think if they do what they have to do to win this basketball game here today, that they're safely in. I think Lincoln Memorial is probably the team that's most likely to go to the Elite 8. They've been #1 for quite some time this year nationally. But then there's other teams that could possibly make it. Mount Olive is very good, and then you never know. You got to play your best basketball come March.
And we saw Mount Olive earlier this season go to King in Bristol, Tennessee, and they only have 2 losses on the year. We saw one of those 2 losses. King got them by 18. They ran it late, and Mount Olive, much like this Lander team, not very deep. They only play 7 guys. Thomas, early in the shot clock, and you're like, well, you threw your hands up there.
It's just ill-advised. There's 20 seconds left on the shot clock. There's no need to take a 1-dribble 3 when you've got an 11-point lead with 4.5 to go.
Crouch to the elbow. And again, they just cannot get their jump shots to fall consistently here in this ball game.
And Coach Mitras is yelling at his team to go spread, because what he wants to do is run some clock.
Devontae Thomas is a senior. Keishan Sherrill, a redshirt sophomore out of Cleveland, North Carolina, and now they've got to go with 10 seconds to go on the clock. And right to the rim.
Another situation where Crouch doesn't want to pick up his 5th, so he just kind of lets him go by. Little Matador defense right there.
Three and a half to go. Lander trailing by 13. Washington in the corner. That rolls out.
The other thing that Georgia Regents has done a good job of in the second half is limit second chance points. They've gotten defensive rebounds, and now they're going to make sure. Well, I thought that they were going to use some clock.
Well, they'll get the opportunity with the second chance. Well, it is an experienced roster. This team does have a lot of guys back from last year's trip to the tournament. And they're looking like a team that will be there once again. 65-52. Keisha Sherrill was a big part of last year's team that made it to the second round. It's trying to lead them there to the NCAA tournament again.
We have so much to celebrate in Division II, but we're especially proud of our commitment to Make-A-Wish.
Division II student athletes have led a 10-year initiative to raise funds and help grant wishes of children with life-threatening medical conditions.
Nearly $3 million have been raised, and hundreds of children's wishes have been granted.
We play hard, we work hard, and we support others in need. Why? It's simple.
Because we care.
Every season starts with hope and a dream to play for the ultimate title, to become NCAA national champions. And you can experience it live at the 2015 NCAA Division II Men's Basketball Championship, March 25th, 26th, and 28th in Evansville, Indiana. Hosted by the University of Southern Indiana and Evansville Sports Corporation. Affordable tickets now available. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today and make a date with the champions.
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny, nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
65-52, Georgia Regents has the lead on Lander. The Jaguars, the #1 team if they win out in the Peach Belt Conference as we make our way towards March in the NCAA tournament. Jason Horowitz and Drew Nicholas, national champion at Maryland. And Drew, whether you're Division I, Division II, everybody wants a taste of that, what you had. And you happen to have a moment that people will never forget that happened in,
oh, man.
Hey, this is in Nashville. Hey, we're not that far. It's the Southeast region. There you go. I believe this is Maryland UNC Wilmington in 2003.
I can't believe you guys are doing this to me right now.
Well, Drew didn't actually pass the ball, and it worked out fine. But here's the question. I always wonder, where are you going?
To the tunnel. The tunnel's right there. Can you see it? I wanted to make sure that the refs didn't say that I didn't get the shot off in time, so I was headed right towards the locker room.
Is that the moment that people bring up most, or do people bring up the national championship? Because you were part of both.
A little bit of both. 2002 was obviously a special year, winning the national championship, but a lot of times people also bring up the shot. Surreal moment. Not much more to say about it. When I let it go, Jay, I thought it was an air ball. I thought my college career was over.
And it never hit rim.
No, it didn't hit rim.
Devontae Thomas to the bench after knocking in a couple of free throws. He's a senior. When their year is over, his college career is over. And he's hoping it's not for a while till maybe they get to Evansville, Indiana, and maybe the Elite Eight. Ricardo Martin from 15, and Elder the offensive board. Crouch tries for three. And it's just not a good three-point shooting team. And they've struggled here today from beyond the arc.
Well, when you're not a good three-point shooting team, it's hard to play catch-up. Down 15, you've got to find ways to score the basketball. And that's one way to do it right there. Create turnovers.
Keisha Sherrill picks up the foul and 1-and-1 opportunity. Still 1-and-1. Excuse me, that is the 10th, so that is the double bonus now. So 2 free throws coming here for J.R. Washington.
I guarantee you that in practice, whenever Georgia Regents decides to practice again, they will work on time management and making sure that they run down some clock, because they haven't done a good job, but they still have the 15-point lead.
J.R. Washington, last year, 41% from beyond the arc, in a very good freshman year in the Peach Belt Conference. As again, as we get into the last 2 minutes, the fouls have been a problem for Lander, and part of the reason why so many open looks for layups down the stretch for Georgia Regents. But they've gotten a lot more from J.R. Washington here in his sophomore season. And
that step from freshman year to sophomore year is often where guys make the biggest move.
Well, it's huge because when you're a freshman, you're coming from playing at the high school level. You don't necessarily know what to expect at the college level. But then after you get that year under your belt, and you see that a little bit with Sherrill, his improvement from freshman to sophomore year, you know what it's going to be like. You know the landscape.
Under 2 minutes to go in a 13-point ball game. Jaguars trying to get to 22-5 and inch closer to the 1 seed in the Peach Belt Conference Tournament. Boys, great look. McCarthy with the second chance opportunity, and he'll go to the line. He has been a bulldog on the boards here in the second half.
He's a senior. It's senior day. Might as well go out there and put your best foot forward.
And that's the other part, too, here for this Georgia Regents team. When you look at their key contributors, McCarthy off the bench is a senior. We've talked a lot today about D'Angelo Boyce.
Yep.
He's a senior. You've got Devin Wright Nelson's a fifth-year senior. Devontae Thomas is a senior. So your leaders on this team who have been to the tournament, who have the experience, they know their careers are done when this year is over.
Well, and Coach Mitri has talked a little bit about it, that especially Devin Wright Nelson, he understands that these are the last couple of games that he's going to play. So he wants to make sure that some of the younger guys understand the moment and they don't let any opportunity pass by.
Approaching 130, Crouch really struggled in this ball game, both first with fouls, then from the floor. Here Crouch just 3 of 12 from the floor after a 24-point performance in their victory against Armstrong State on Wednesday.
I still like the way that he's been aggressive in this second half. He's been the only guy, well, between him and Hose, who's kind of tried to push the envelope.
Well, they used a lot of clock. Down to 105 here in his 13-point game. So Georgia Regents with that 13-point lead. And we're under a minute to go here in Augusta. And a foul underneath. On Saturday, March 28th, for the 25th consecutive year, the NCAA Division II Men's Basketball Championship will be broadcast live on CBS from the Ford Center in Evansville, Indiana. And for more info about the NCAA Division II Men's Basketball Elite 8, visit ncaa.com. And again, the 8 champions from the 8 different regions will all converge on Evansville for that one weekend. Central Missouri, the defending champs, they opened up 3rd with the initial rankings in their region. We saw them to start the season. Pulled a couple of upsets to win that championship last year. And you get that a lot here because 3 games in a single time frame as opposed to what Division I is, which is 3 sets of 2 games.
Yeah.
It seemed like it's a little bit more difficult to run that gauntlet.
Well, it is, especially if you don't have a deep basketball team, because the turnaround is so much less. You got to make sure that guys are getting the proper rest. I remember playing in NCAA tournament games, just the Friday to Sunday turnover. It was tough on some guys who played 30, 35 minutes, and then all of a sudden, you might have an early Sunday tip, 12 or 2 o'clock. You've got to be ready to go again, or your season's over. So I think it kind of helps the teams that are a little bit more, that have a little bit more depth.
And again, the Peach Belt Conference standings, Georgia Regents with a win today, as they look like they're about to get. If they beat USC Aiken, no matter what Pembroke does on Wednesday, Regents will have the 1 seed in the East Division. And this year, the highest remaining seed in the East Division will host the Peach Belt Conference tournament. So with that being said, Regents could be playing, Georgia Regents could be playing on this floor here at Christenberry Fieldhouse to go to the NCAA tournament and have the automatic bid. And the foul given by J.R. Washington with 50 seconds to go.
Number 10, J.R. Washington. That's his second foul.
So work to do for Jeff Berkhammer and Lander.
And if you're Georgia Regents, the 2 guys that you want with the basketball is this guy right here at the line, as well as D'Angelo Boyce. Boyce, a 95% free throw shooter. He's only missed 2 all season long. as Sherrill knocks down the first.
And he's an 84% free throw shooter on the season. And this game got close in the first half, Drew, because he went to the bench.
Yep.
With about 6 minutes to go, he picked up his second foul. Georgia Regents had an 8-point lead, which was down to 2 at the half. And from the point the second half got going, we've been around 10 to 14 points the entire last 15 minutes of the second half.
Well, it was the turnovers. It was the turnovers early that really dictated the tempo of this second half. And Georgia Regents has done a good job of being consistent. They've taken some ill-advised shots, but defensively, they haven't let Lander get second chance points. And offensively, Sherrill's been a little bit more aggressive, as well as Wright Nelson.
So Lander in the huddle will fall to 18-8 on the season. They'll fall to 10-8 in the Peach Belt Conference. But their spot in the Peach Belt Conference tournament is set. They will play Columbus State no matter what, because Columbus State will be the second seed in the Peach Belt West Division. Lander will be the third seed in the East Division. So that part is set. It's just, can they get some momentum, maybe with a win at Georgia College on Wednesday, heading into that game against Columbus State.
Yep.
Tobias Hose had a great first half. Stuck on 20, has not had the impact here in the second half, but an opportunity to add to it. And there's a lot to build on, because while we talked about all the upperclassmen for GRU, Lander's got a lot of guys that are going to be back next season.
Well, all three of their guards are all coming back. You've got Crouch, who's going to be a sophomore. Washington's going to be a junior, and Hose is going to be a senior. So you've got your top three scorers all returning. If the big guys for Lander can continue to develop and get a little bit better, this could very well be a very good team next year in the Peach Belt Conference.
Lander has not been to the NCAA tournament since 2007, 4 times in school history. The first back in 1994. And Lander has also made an Elite Eight. They got there in 1999, where they lost to eventual national champion Kentucky Wesleyan in the Elite Eight. So they've got some history, but in terms of the present, Georgia Regents is the team here in the Peach Belt Conference, along with Montevallo, that think they can go far. A little too far on the pass for Michael Graham, the redshirt sophomore, just into the ballgame.
And even though they're up 11 right now, I don't want to speak too soon, because I've been a part of some basketball games where you can be up 9 or 10 with 1 minute left, and things start to happen. As J.R. Washington knocks down the 3, Georgia Regents better keep their focus.
Are you referring to a specific game in a rivalry that happened on your home floor? Is that what you're referring to?
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. I remember a game in 2001. I still have the date remembered. January 27, 2001.
Well, if that's January 27, 2001, what are you doing on March 1st, 2015? Next Sunday, noon Eastern. Maybe we've got a game like that, the final NCAA Division II game of the week. We'll turn it back over to the ladies, the Red Hawks of Roberts Wesleyan, LIU Post. It's Sunday, March 1st. It's noon Eastern. You can also catch every game there for the NCAA Division II game of the week, streamed live on ncaa.com and the NCAA Sports mobile app. So they got to foul, and they got to foul quickly. But Hose is in trouble with foul trouble, and they haven't fouled. Sherrill to McCarthy, and he lost the ball.
I don't understand why you try to make a play there. You're up 8 points, 20 seconds left.
And Mike Lee comes in, give him an extra 3-point shooter with Sergio Smith to the bench, who hasn't made a 3 all year. Down 8, 21 seconds. Crouch out to the corner, it's Washington. Blocked away McCarthy. And that should do it.
That should do it right there. But boy, if you're Coach Mitris, you had to be sitting there thinking, oh no, please. If Washington makes that 3, they're down 5, 1 turnover, anything could happen. But McCarthy doing an excellent job like he's been all game long. The defensive enforcer getting that block.
And again, huge minutes off the bench. 9 rebounds for McCarthy, 3 block shots for the senior from Honfoss, Norway. And Keishan Sherrill knocks in the free throw.
And because it's senior day, his dad made the trek all the way here from Norway to be able to get a chance to see his son play in his last collegiate basketball game.
And on the other side, Coach Berkhammer emptying the bench. Matthew Schultz into the game, another Australian that's on this roster. Marco Morales, a 6'1" freshman out of Chandler, Arizona, also now into the ball game. And Georgia Regents will also empty the bench now that Keishan Sherrill has made that free throw. And he's taking out the seniors, as you just mentioned here on senior day, Dimitris.
Well, the freshman, Kelvin Howard, almost forgot to take off his shirt. I thought he was going to come out on the court and try to play in his shooting shirt. Come on, young fella.
He's good. He's got the jersey that'll be auctioned off. Huge ovation here for Devontae Thomas, Devin Wright Nelson, D'Angelo Boyce, and Henry McCarthy here on senior day. But again, if they win on Wednesday against USC Aiken, they have the chance. They would be hosting the entire Peach Belt Conference tournament right here in this building. One last shot off the mark. Michael Graham gets into the scorer's book with a rebound, and Georgia Regents beats Lander 71-61 in our 2015 D2 Military Salute game. Again, be sure to join us Sunday, March 1st for our final Division II basketball game of the week when Roberts Wesleyan faces off against LIU Post in an East Coast Conference women's basketball contest beginning at noon Eastern on CBS Sports Network. Now, for Drew Nicholas and Kat Anderson and our entire crew, I'm Jason Horowitz. Thanks for watching. Take care, folks.